videos, photography, provided by our affiliates. As we build our community, we pay it forward. Our nonprofit organization GI Connect.
Getting your business started, or if you're struggling with your business.
Hey, welcome to Vision to Success, and thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Maria.
And I'm Jason LeDuc from Evil Genius Leadership Consultants. This is Vision to Success, where we bring on Las Vegas business owners, experienced business owners, new business owners, and we talk about the things they've learned in growing their business, the struggles they've had, the challenges they've faced, and how they've overcome them, so that you don't have to learn the lessons that we all learned the hard way.
Yes.
So we've got two great guests today. We'll bring them on in a minute. But before we do that, what's on your mind today?
Oh, you know what? I've seen this news about the shooting. We had so many shootings in the U.S. and this shooting was just happened, I believe, on Saturday or Sunday in Florida. I think it says that the cops actually called the police about this shooting. I haven't seen the whole article actually, but this is about gun control. That's what they are literally focusing on, is the gun control. How can we fix this? How our government allowing, I'm not against with anything. I'm not on any sides, by the way, disclaimer. But what are the proper steps to actually give gun to people? Are you, especially on mental health, those kind of thing? I don't know. Help me out.
I don't know. I thought this was a business show, so there's a lot of interests at work, a lot of interests at play. Some of the big challenges are the rules are different from state to state, and that's kind of how our system is set up, and that's okay. So it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge, and people are gonna have to get together and talk and figure out what's gonna work. And it's very hard when people are separated and don't want to talk. And so I think we're going to be in for a lot of this for a long time to come without any dialogue that's going on, and that's unfortunate.
And no solution.
So all right. Well, let's get to business.
Before we get into into a commercial break, I just want to say we never talked for 7 days, I think. So what's up with you? Is there anything coming up you're doing on your business? I'm
doing a lot of stuff I'm working on. So I am just working on more digital courses and just working on doing some marketing for my business. So, but we've got two other guests who are here to talk about their businesses today. So why don't we take a break and we'll bring our first guest on in just a minute. Stay right here.
Traditional TV is going away. Hollywood is starting to fade. People are demanding real stories from real people. Our voices are now being heard in our own way. Podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok Live are becoming the norm. Internet TV has now reached the highest demand in human history. Social media shows is now the new media of the century.
As we continue to grow and build a brand, social media shows continue to develop and discover new possibilities to help one another. Our affordable services will help us move to the next level of our journey. Host your own show to inspire or
welcome back. That's really a fast break. It's a fast break.
Well, we have a lot to talk about today, so it's good that we did a fast break, and I'm hoping that all of our breaks will be fast today, because we do have a lot to get to with these two guests. And our first guest is Andrea Simmons. She's an intellectual property attorney. She's got a whole story that she's going to tell us about how she got there. But we heard about you from another attorney who was on the show, Sean Young, who's a friend of mine and a friend of the show, and I've known her for a number of years. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And please tell us how you got from where you started out to being an intellectual property attorney.
Okay, so Shane, I do appreciate Shane Young for connecting us together. I really appreciate that. So starting out for me, I've always wanted to do law, and I think one of the biggest reasons why was because I just wanted to be able to educate people. I have a passion for educating other people. So I figured, why not learn the law and help people learn things?
Why not do the easiest thing possible
The
and go
easiest
to law
thing
school?
possible, right? Exactly. And so it's always been a passion of mine. So when going into law school initially, I wanted to do sports and entertainment law. Yeah, quickly scratched that whole thing. I was like, no, thank you on the sports side. So I started focusing on the entertainment side, and what I found was that it really encompasses intellectual properties a lot, and so I just really started putting my focus there. In law school, we had a actual clinic that we were able to provide trademark services and copyright services to individuals in the community. So that was a great experience. And so I was like, okay, I love this. A lot of people think, oh my goodness, law is so stressful. Attorneys are like, the suicide rate is high with attorneys, and the alcoholism and the drugs and all those things. And why do they pick such a stressful thing? And guess what? Intellectual property law is non-stressful. So I love it. Unless your client ends up in court, then that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, court is never fun for anybody. So
exactly. And so initially, I knew coming out of law school that I wanted to practice on my own, and so I just sought out opportunities of starting my own law firm, and so. That's what I did. My law firm is based out of St. George, Utah.
That's right, and I do want to get into that in a little bit.
So that's what I do, and I love it. I love what I'm doing.
So did you travel from George, Utah to here?
So I actually live in Nevada, and I just established my office in St. George, Utah.
And I do want to get into that part of the story, but before I get into that, you started law school later in life.
I did.
You were married, you had a family, you had kids, so you were doing family and law school, and you were moving around.
Absolutely.
At the same, so tell us about that. Tell us how you stayed focused on law school, but were there for your family too.
Okay, so I actually have 4 children, believe it or not. Most people can't believe that. And so I do have 4 children. And so, and my husband, he actually worked overseas. So he wasn't home. So I always classify myself as a married single mom. And so, so I knew that law school was my passion. My family fully supported me. And so we moved to San Diego so that I could attend law school. I did law school. Initially, I started out part-time. However, I was really determined to graduate with the class that I came in. And so after the first year of law school, I decided, you know what, I just really need to put my foot to the grind and really get things going. And so that's what I did. Every break, because one of the things I loved about my law school, which was Thomas Jefferson in San Diego, was that we had intersessions. And so every break, there was an opportunity for you to take a class that gave you credits. And so that's what I did. I took advantage of every break. And each time I took those credits, I was able to get myself closer and closer to being able to graduate with the class that I came in with.
That's something we talk a lot about in this show when it comes to business, is sometimes opportunities don't always come along when it's convenient for you. And so when you get that time and space to work on an opportunity, you get 2 weeks, 3 weeks where, whether it's the holiday season or the summertime, or it's a down season for what you're doing in your business, this is the time to work on those personal development things. This is the time to work on those education things, because we all know when you're working, when you're trying to build a business and grow a business, some of those things that you'd like to do, some of those things you'd like to get ahead on, it's not always convenient or easy to do those. So I think that's great. That's a great lesson for everybody watching, that when you get a gap, and there's something an opportunity you can take advantage of, do it.
Exactly. I completely agree.
So you were married while you're going school?
Yes.
How many kids you have when you were at school?
I have all 4 of my kids.
Oh,
and so my youngest was in first grade.
I commend you for that.
And so I have from first grade to 11th grade when I was in law school. So.
I went to college with 2 kids, single mom, and I work a day job.
Okay.
So I have like 3 hours of sleep for 5 years until I graduated. So that's why I'm like, oh shucks, yeah,
I know
how that, that it seems. So.
It took a lot, and coming out of law school, because everybody want to know, well, what internships did you do? Where did you go? How come you didn't do? Were you on moot court? Were you on all of these things? And I explained to them, actually not. And then they asked me why, and I said, well, because I was a mom, and so I couldn't just pack up and travel with the moot court team or any of those things, take advantage of the travel,
law review,
doing law review.
That's a thing I've heard of on television, which I have no idea what it is, but law review is a thing, right?
It is. So law review is where it's basically like a column for the law school, and so and some of the things get published, and so it's really, really nice. And however, it takes time, so you have to dedicate time each and every month. And I felt like I was taking so much time away from my family by attending school, because I attended school like it was work. So I got up, I dropped my kids off at school, whether I had classes all day or not, I stayed on campus the entire day, and I treated it like it was work. Then I got out of school, and I was able to go pick my kids all up from school and things like that. And I did that every single day, just like it was my job. And so with doing that, I felt like I couldn't take extra time outside of that time to dedicate to other things, because I had a family to take care of. So.
Well, and what's really commendable about that is you had your priorities in line. You had your priorities of where you wanted your career to go. You had your priorities of how you wanted your family life to be. And you saw those things, while they are, for someone who had a different career path that they wanted to follow, either highly desired or maybe even necessary for what they wanted to do. This fit in line with your goals to say, these are the things I'm going to be involved in, and these are things that are extra, and if I can be involved in them someday, maybe, and if not, that's okay, because I'm on the path to my goals. I'm not on the path to somebody else's goals for me.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So tell us about St. George. Tell us the whole story. I know the story, but they don't know the story, and there's a really good lesson here.
Okay, so the story is that so coming out of law school, of course, you are a Juris Doctorate candidate. That's it. You have your JD. That's it, right? So you have your JD. However, in order to actually be considered an esquire, an attorney, a practicing attorney, you have to get licensed and be admitted into the bar of a state. So I took the Nevada bar a couple of times, got really, really close a couple of times. And so I just kind of had to do kind of like a recheck with myself. And I was like, okay, I know that I'm capable. I know that I'm accomplished. I know that I know these things, and I will not allow this to get me down. So I was like, fine, I'll go and take the UBE. So the UBE is the Uniform Bar Exam. Great thing about the UBE is there's like 38 jurisdictions that as long as your score is good enough, you can be able to be admitted into those jurisdictions. So I said, fine, I'm going to prove that I can pass the bar, and I'm going to go and take the UBE. And so that's what I did. I went to Arizona. I took the UBE. I missed Arizona's score by 3 points, and I was like, that's okay, because there's another 30-something jurisdictions that I could potentially have a score that passed in. And so my score came in, and so I did. I had 28 jurisdictions that my score qualified for passing. And so I decided that I was going to submit for licensing in those jurisdictions. Okay. I already have an exam under my belt, and I was like, I'll come back to Nevada when I come back to Nevada. And so that's what I did. So I went to Utah. I went through the process. I actually started the process around just before COVID hit. Then COVID hit, and I'm like emailing the board, like, what's going on, because they only have 3 times a year that they actually do admission. Okay. And so so they're like, yeah, we have you on the list. You're going to be admitted. And I was like, great. The day I was admitted, I was sitting in my home here in Las Vegas, Nevada, being sworn in over the internet, and it was such a great feeling. And I was like, okay, now where do I go? I know I want my own law firm. How am I going to do this, and what I'm going to do?
And you wanted a law firm in Las Vegas.
I initially
wanted to continue to live in Las Vegas.
I wanted to continue to live in Las Vegas. However, I wanted to be able to still be able to practice law. So now I'm licensed in the state of Utah. However, I can't practice law in Nevada, being licensed in Utah. So I'm like, St. George is only 2 hours away. People commute longer than that to go to work. When I lived in San Diego, I worked in LA
you were probably,
for a little while. And so that's a 2-hour commute.
2 hours each way.
Exactly, each way. So I was like, hey, I've done it going to LA back and forth. I can do this again. And so that's what I did. I decided to set up my practice in St. George, Utah. The thing that I love about the area of law that I practice is a lot of it is digital anyway. Everything's online, so it makes things a lot easier and a lot more efficient for me. However, I have my office in St. George where I can go and be.
So lesson number 1, if the obvious path to your goal is getting difficult or the way is blocked, there are other paths to your goal. Remember that, because we're going to come back to lesson 2 in a second, because you do live in Las Vegas and you help serve clients in the Las Vegas area, right?
Yeah. So often I get, so what I can do is I meet up with Las Vegas attorneys. So attorneys that are actually practicing in Las Vegas. And so now you can't do this on a regular basis, which I don't receive clients regularly. However, when I'm in my office in St. George, if a Las Vegas client contacts me when I'm in my office in St. George, then technically they're contacting me in my office in St. George, and I will be able to serve them. However, if I'm in Las Vegas, at the time I get the introduction, then typically that attorney is already assisting that client in another matter. And then I just kind of come on as a third-party consult to be able to assist on that matter, because I work with a couple of attorneys that do business law already. And of course, we're talking about business, and intellectual property has a lot to do with business. And so they kind of bring me in, and I help kind of educate the potential clients on that. And so,
so lesson number 2.
Go ahead.
Lesson number 2 is when you find yourself on this alternate path, or even if you're on your primary path, look for people to help you to get to your goal. We can't do this all alone, and we sometimes need people to help us, even when we're doing as best we can on our path, right? So go ahead, Maria.
Yeah. So I don't know if I missed this part, but I have a question. So you are licensed in Utah?
yes.
And you are only allowed to serve people to actually do business in Utah?
Yes.
Right? So, is there any possible way that you can actually, like maybe taking a license here? How that works?
Yeah, so I could sit for the Nevada bar and become licensed in Nevada once I pass the Nevada bar.
Okay,
So,
got
yeah.
you. Yeah, that's what confused me a little bit.
And that's an option for you. But what I want to get at with this is, you live in the place you want to live.
Yes.
You're doing the work you want to do. You have the career you want to have, and you came to it through an alternate path, and you've got people to help you do that.
Exactly.
Right? You're doing exactly what you want to be doing. You just didn't do it through the kind of the primary path that everyone says, and you still have options to do things in a different way if you want to.
Absolutely.
So that's just what I want to make sure we get across is, if your business is not, if you're not on the traditional path or the path that everyone tells you should be on, that's okay. Find your own way to do this. Find your own way to success, but keep focused on the goal you're trying to get to. Don't get so focused on the path.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's a really inspiring story, and I know we're going to hear great things from you in the future. But let's shift gears a little bit, because I know people want to hear about the intellectual property side of things. So give us a little intellectual property 101, and then we'll get into some specific questions.
Okay, so intellectual property 101, what are the main things? Basically what encompasses intellectual property. When I say intellectual property, some people know right off the bat that we're talking about trademarks, we're talking about copyrights, things like that. Other people don't. They hear property, that's all they hear is property, and they think that it's any type of property, and I have
Selective
to explain.
hearing, right?
But no, we're talking we're talking about intellectual, right? So when you think of your intellect, we're talking about things that you produce through your thought and through your mind process. And so it's mainly trademarks, copyrights. There's a lot of licensing agreements that come along with trademarks and copyrights. There is the patent side of it. However, I am not a patent licensed attorney. I have not sat for the patent bar, and so the patent, and I do not have the technical background for
there's a lot of
the
math
patent.
with that.
It is, yeah. So you need that technical background. So I do not do patent. However, I do the trademarks, the copyrights, which a lot of that has to do with the entertainment realm as well, right? With a lot of the licensing that comes along with the music rights and things like that. And also a lot of contract law. So it has a lot to do with contract law, whether it's reviewing contracts, whether it's drafting contracts, whether it's amending contracts, whatever it is, and negotiating them. And so that's what it has a lot to do with. And so just kind of helping people understand the difference between trademark and copyright, because that's one of the biggest things.
It's probably the most confusing, the most misunderstood, and probably the most important thing in what you do is the difference between copyrights and trademarks. So tell us a little about that.
Okay, so the difference between copyright and trademark. So a trademark is a name, a logo, a slogan. Right? So remember that. It's a name, logo, or slogan. There are other things that you can trademark. However, we'll focus on that because you can even do sound bites. Like, you know, the NBC, doom, doom, doom. They have a trademark on that. So you can even do things like that. However, it's mainly a name, logo, or a slogan that you can have trademark. Copyrights has to do with your literary works. So we're talking about whether you're an author. Photography falls under copyright. So if you are a photographer,
this video
will
fall under a
copyright. Exactly. So, and then just remembering that with copyrights, as soon as it's put into a tangible form, the copyright exists. You want to file it with the Copyright Office because you want to be able to protect it so that you can be able to go after anyone that potentially infringes on it. And so that's the difference. One of the huge differences between copyrights and trademarks that people need to understand. You don't copyright a logo. You don't copyright the name of your business. You trademark those things. And
so when should business owners start being concerned about the limited copyright protection they get from just doing things, and when should they start thinking about, maybe I need to bring in an attorney to protect my copyright?
So my thing is that at the beginning, because most people want to know, when do I need to consult an attorney? I'm trying to keep my costs as low as I want to keep my costs. Do I really want to take the time to consult with an attorney? Best thing to do, check with attorneys that do free consultations.
Good idea.
So if you can get an attorney and they do free consultations, guess what? You got them for free for 30 minutes, an hour, or whatever, and you can run all of your questions by them that way to kind of give you an idea how you should move forward. And so what I recommend is that at the onset, when you're establishing your business, if you know that you are creating something within your business that is going to be unique, if you know that you're creating something in your business that you don't want the next person to just be able to just kind of copy you, then you should be talking to an attorney about getting your intellectual properties protected. And
so if someone's got a blog on their website that they're using for marketing purposes, is that something they should worry about copywriting? Or is it maybe when it rises to the level of, I've got an ebook that I'm selling on my website? Is there what do you think?
Well, the thing is that looking at the onset of how you want the end result to be, right? So from the onset, looking at what that end result is going to be for you. When you kind of go into this, you're like, hey, I might want to do a book after this. If you know that that's what you want to do, start from the beginning. Protect it from the beginning so that you don't have to later start the protection process when someone has already potentially infringed on what it is that you want. And so that's what I recommend.
And what are the things that a business owner should be thinking about before they come and sit down to you? What are some of the questions you're going to ask a business owner if they come and sit down with you for one of these free consultations?
So one of the things that I ask them first, especially when it comes to trademarking, are you using your mark? Right? Because that determines what type of application I'm going to file for you.
Okay.
We have an in-use application or we have an intent-to-use application. So if you're using your mark, I want to know how you're using it, whether or not you're using it in commerce, whether or not it's a service or whether or not it's a product that is attached to that trademark. And so those are some of the things that I want to ask you at the onset to know exactly the date of first use. You want to know when you first used it so that we can be able to file your application proving that you have been using it from this particular time moving forward. So those are some of the questions that I also ask you. I'm actually nice enough to provide you with a questionnaire
very nice.
that you get to fill out. And this is even before I even brought you on as a client. I provide you with the questionnaire that pretty much answers all those questions for me. Then I can get you prepared so that when we meet, we can really discuss exactly what it is and how we can best help you. So
I want to ask one more question about that. You talked about the question, are you using it in commerce? And I want to understand what that means, because I have a feeling that what I think it means kind of on a regular guy level is probably not what it means legally. So can you tell us what it means to be using your trademark or your intellectual property in commerce?
So what that means to be using e-commerce is that you are actually using it where other people can see it.
Okay.
Where it's visible to other people. If it's a product, are you actually selling your products to people? Can people purchase them? Can people purchase them in more than just the state that you're residing in? But people, say someone in Ohio wants to purchase something that they're able to purchase and that they have purchased it for you. So commerce is when you have the interchanging of services over state boundaries.
Okay.
Okay, because that's how you get your federal protection, because you need to be able to have that interchanging over state boundaries to be able to get that protection.
So if you've got it sketched out on a piece of paper over your desk in your basement, that's
That's
doesn't
not
count,
a use.
right?
No.
And here's where I was going with this. If you're using it as your logo, your profile picture on your social media, but you're not doing any selling off of that, like Instagram site, does that count for being in commerce?
So it depends on what type of copyright it is, right?
Okay.
So whether or not it's a service mark. So a service mark is that you're providing a service to people. And if you're providing a service to people and you're using your social media in order to reach your base of potential clientele or whoever, then yes, that is considered to be e-commerce use.
So
However, if it's a product that you sell, but I can't get your product by going through your social media or anything like that, and you're not actually selling it, you're just using it, then that wouldn't be classified as in use in commerce. Does that make sense?
Yes and no, but that made my point is that these things that sound like they make sense to us who are not lawyers, it's not always the way it sounds like it should make common sense.
Right.
So that's kind of the point I wanted to make, and that was even a more nuanced answer than I expected. I expected to kind of be no, it doesn't count, or yes, it does count, and it was well,
but there's
maybe
an in between. Exactly.
Yeah, so it made the point better than I ever could have.
Let me ask you a question. You see trademark, once you actually when you register your business, it's already part of the trademark, correct?
So in most states, you use their Secretary of State to register a business, right?
Yes.
And of course, within the Secretary of State, there are no business can have the same name. So that is the state's way of kind of providing the protection for trademarking. So, but that's just a state, right?
So it's not,
It's not federally. So and also that state protection is just saying nobody else in this state can register a business under my name. That doesn't mean that there are a lot of people that do business that don't register. So that doesn't mean that someone else couldn't potentially be using the mark. And so the federal protection comes with the USPTO with filing of the trademark. What that means is that no one in any other state can be in the same type of service that I'm providing using the same name that I have.
That comes to my next question. So when you get your EIN, that is also part of the trademark. Is that correct or not?
That is not. No,
Okay.
your EIN doesn't have anything to do with your trademarking, and that's only for your tax purposes with the IRS.
So when you file it to them, you're gonna get your EIN plus your business name that is trademark in your state, but they will not provide. If somebody go and get an EIN with the same trademark name on your state, federal wouldn't give any EIN for that business. So it's technically.
Well, I don't know how the IRS works
I'm
with
not
it.
sure the IRS is real picky about what names get put on those. They're more concerned about the number and the person and their social security number.
Exactly.
I don't think they're real concerned about the
name.
on
They
those,
don't. I don't think
EINs.
so. I don't think that they really regulate that.
I'm not a lawyer, but that's my impression.
Yeah. So and then just remember that just because you file your business name in your state, that doesn't mean that you automatically have a trademark. The states also have a filing process that you can file for a trademark.
But,
and there's a cost with that
exactly,
too. So.
So when you go register your business, it goes all the things in there, and you pay the whole amount with the trademark and everything.
So.
I know what you mean. You can just go on the 25 and file your business name without trademark.
Right.
Or you can go to the higher price, which is almost $600, and get everything, all licensed that you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then remember that's only for state purposes.
For state
so that's
purposes,
just for someone
yes.
in the same state.
Right.
Yeah.
Only for state purposes. And so what you really need to do, well, if you want to protect yourself nationwide and even worldwide to some extent, is you need to go
To an attorney.
to the the
USPTO.
USPTO. Tell us real briefly about the USPTO.
So the USPTO, I love the USPTO.gov. That's the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And so they are an office that pretty much regulates the filing process of your trademarks and your patents. That's all they do. The Copyright Office is a completely separate entity that does the copyright licensing. So, and that's all they do is process your applications, make sure that there aren't any other potential marks that are already like that, any other trademarks that are like that. And then if they find that they're not, after about 4 to 6 months, then bam, you get your registration. That's all they do.
Right. That's important. It's important to understand.
That's where they're. Once you get your registration, it stops there for them, unless someone later comes down the line and want to argue that you shouldn't have that trademark.
Right.
Then they'll get involved in that matter. However, that's all they do. Once that is done, it's up to you to be able to police your own mark and determine whether or not people are infringing on it. The copyright or the USPTO does not do that. That's not a part of their process, and you can't even pay them to do that.
Right. So what does that mean for a typical business owner to go police their trademarks?
So it entails a lot. There are softwares out there that you can purchase that kind of like scam through the internet and see if anything. But like if you don't have the funds to be able to purchase those software, then you're talking about taking time to sit down, doing Google searches, going on social media, doing searches like that. Like it takes time to comb through all of that information to determine whether or not someone is potentially infringing on your mark. Sometimes it's embedded in their websites in other places. So it may not be in the main part of their website, but it may be in a paragraph that's in their website and that they're using it. So there's a whole lot of ways in which someone can infringe on your mark, and it takes a lot of time as an individual to be able to look those things up.
The best advice I can give is once you've started your business, you're established and you're growing, don't stop doing your market research, your competition research, your industry research. Keep doing those things. Understand who your existing competition is. Understand who your new competition is coming out. That will at least help point you in the right direction for some of these things.
Absolutely.
You know, it's real easy for someone to come cut and paste a couple of paragraphs off your website, stick it in their website so they can get the SEO benefit of using the same keywords that you might be using for your SEO. Or just, when Google goes and indexes that page, when the search engines go and index that page, they've got the same wording you've got, and now it becomes a toss-up between the two sites.
Absolutely.
So keep doing good business strategy, keep doing your market research, keep doing your competition research and your industry research. Always keep growing and learning about your own business, and that will help you along with this.
Absolutely.
All right, what do you think?
I have
one
one
more
last question.
before we take a break?
This is really interesting. So we have the PTO, which is the federal, right?
Yes.
Yes, trademark. Do we have like international trademarking now? Because everything is in the internet now, and nobody's using your name. You know what I mean? You want actually, everywhere around the world. So how do you think there is one like that?
Yes, I know that there is. So there is. And so what the organization that typically kind of regulates, it's called Wipo. So it's the World International how did I forget what the P stood for? But it's but they do. So Wipo kind of regulates all of the trademarking and copywriting and patenting throughout the world. So you can actually have you can set up things through them. So if you know that you're going to be doing something internationally, most countries, and a lot of countries have their own trademark and copyright offices. Most of them do. Wipo just kind of you can kind of go in, and it's like a little smorgasbord, and you can say, well, I want this country and I want that country, and they'll kind of help you with the process of what you need to do in filing everything with that particular country. Or if you know it's only one country in particular that you want to go after, then you can file directly with that country. However, most of the countries already want you to have a actual trademark in your own country first. So you would need to have a filing with the USPTO because they're going to ask you for that number, your registration number, before they will allow you to get protection outside.
And this can get expensive, right?
Yes.
It can get really expensive.
It can get really expensive.
With Wipo and your attorney and all of those kinds of things.
And complicated.
And so I'm not saying don't go do this. Don't go get all these worldwide trademarks if you think you're doing it, but tie it to your business strategy. If you're not doing business in a country, you may not want to go to the time and the expense and effort if you're not trying to sell in that country. When you're planned for world domination, when you reach that point of your strategy where you're going to be in that country, then 6 months out, 8 months out, a year out, start leading into that to make sure you can get your trademarks and all the right things you need. You may not, based on cultural differences, you may not want to use your existing trademarks in another country that you're trying to sell to. So it gets really complicated. So don't just dive into this and say, I need to have it for the whole world. Tie it to your business strategy as you expand from where you are today to where you want to be in the future.
Yep.
Yeah. And remembering that you are policing it yourself.
Yeah.
So if it's in another country, you have to go and figure out how to police in that country.
So keep that in mind as well. All right. I think we're overdue for a break.
Yes.
So let's take a quick break here. Real quick break, like the last one. And we'll be right back with our second guest.
Traditional TV is going away. Hollywood is starting to fade. People are demanding real stories from real people. Our voices are now being heard in our own way. Podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok Live are becoming the norm. Internet TV has now reached the highest demand in human history. Social media shows is now the new media of the century.
As we continue to grow and build a brand, social media shows continue to develop and discover new possibilities to help one another. Our affordable services will help us move to the next level of our journey. Host your own show to inspire or entertain others for as low as $150 per month.
You have 20 shows a week, live stream.
We are looking for sponsors. We showcase your business products and services on our network to be seen by your target market for as low as $200 a month.
That's 2 percentage points short of reaching critical mass, which will lead to faster results. We have 20 plus shows with a reach of over 80,000. We'll give you commercial ads, website link, and connections to nonprofit organizations.
Let us promote and advertise your event, giving your venue the red carpet treatment. This platform allows venues that feature entertainment, singers, bands, DJs, comedy, fashion, corporate events, and family events to be showcased in a new direction that also involves your audiences starts at $200 an hour. We also provides video editing, website builder, commercial video for your business, music videos, photography, provided by our affiliates. As we build our community, we pay it forward. Our nonprofit organization GI Connections is all about giving back to our community. Join us create outreach programs to help our community and live a happy, peaceful, and unity. Let us bring the world to you.
Live streaming on social media is the best new way to interact and bond with your community. Do you love to encourage, motivate, and empower others, but you do not know how? Well, your opportunity starts with us on social media shows. We have 20 shows a week live streamed across the globe with a reach of over 80,000 and growing. So you can host your own show and you can be anything you want to be. So let's bring the community together and let's bring the world to you. Join us now. We've reached the age of live streaming on social media shows. You may ask, we're already ahead of the curve, so why do you need to advertise with us? Well, only 8% of the businesses in the US are using digital advertising to grow their business. That's 2 percentage points short of reaching critical mass, which will lead to faster results. We have 20 plus shows with a reach of over 80,000. We'll give you commercial ads, website link, and connections to nonprofit organizations. So get your brand ready for digital monetization, for we are looking for sponsors, which will bring more traffic to your business and ultimately mean more sales. So let's bring the world to you. Inquire now.
vision to success, and we have a brand new guest here. And this is Brian Gardner of We Have the Power. Go ahead, Brian, tell us what you do.
Yeah, I've been a musician for over 50 years, but right now I'm hosting my own show, We Have the Power, and it's designed to make sure we don't lose our freedoms and liberties by covering a wide variety of current issues that people are concerned about today. And so that's what I'm doing. But given the subject you're talking about here today, at some point I can talk about how things have changed in music since I got my first drum set in 1969. Wow. You know, just radically changed. I never thought about, I wasn't writing songs at that time. Now I've written about 50 songs, but when I was starting to play music, we were playing cover music and nobody cared. You know, there wasn't that intense scrutiny. And I can talk about that later too, some of the things we experienced with the wineries in Northern California when I was with the band Crystal Image, and some of the trouble we had even performing. You know, so it's really changed radically as far as music and the control. I mean, you can't even sing the happy birthday song in restaurants now. I think that's so tragic.
You can't?
No, it's copyrighted, so they won't let them sing it. And the restaurant owners get in trouble if they do. So now they have to sing happy birthday, you know, it's just like, can't we just sing the traditional song? And I think that's over control, because no one is paying to be in that restaurant. They're buying food, but, you know, are they going to arrest a guy who's on his knees singing some copyrighted song to his wife-to-be, and the thought police come in and say, all right, that's a copyrighted song, stop. And then it's like, what has happened to our society, you know? Now, if someone takes a copyrighted song, goes out on tour, like Paul McCartney plays a Rolling Stones song, yes, I think he should pay royalties to that, because he's making money from that endeavor. But when it starts getting to the point where there's no money being exchanged, and the representative from BMI and those places are not there to say, which songs did you pay, so we can get a piece of that to Rod Stewart and a piece of that to Ella Fitzgerald's account and all that. They don't do that. They just go, hey, you're playing copyrighted music, pay us $600 a month. No, come and see what we're playing, because I want to see that money gets to the artist. Otherwise, it's a shakedown routine, in my opinion, you know, and that's the part I don't like about music.
What do you think had changed during the years? Because like what I heard, we cannot play songs anymore these days where we used to do it back in the day. What do you think had changed?
So the Copyright Act had to change a lot. And the reason being is because the artist was always on the back end and not getting the recognition and the fees that they're entitled to. And so the Copyright Act had to make a lot of changes so that it could protect the artist more, so that the artist could start getting more of the money that was being produced out of the use of their songs, because ultimately they're their songs. And so,
and I agree with that. I want you to know I agree with that. When there is money being exchanged for someone's song, I am in total agreement with that.
Yes.
But you know, I've also heard tremendous stories. As you know, in '69 I started playing drums, and the Beatles were great. And then you start hearing these stories that the Beatles had signed away their rights to their songs.
Yes.
And then you hear these stories about artists who have to sue the record company because the record company said, oh, to record this album, you know, we had people dusting the studio after you left. That's an expense. And they kept adding on these fraudulent expenses. Then the artist went to court, found out they were fraudulent, and got paid the money they should have. And I think, can't we as a species treat each other better than that? Not to inflate to inflate the cost of an album so that they can keep more money when they don't really deserve it.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest things, just kind of realizing as artists and going into the industry with a record label. Right. Record labels have attorneys. They have their attorneys on hand, and they've been doing this for a while. And so most of the time within your contract, if you're just happy to just get a contract and you just sign away, you're often signing away your copyrights, because the record label will own those copyrights. almost nine times out of 10, the record label puts that they own.
Especially for new young artists.
Yeah, they put that they own the copyrights to whatever songs that you produce under that label.
Right.
And so it's whether or not you are confident in who you are and what it is that you're doing enough to negotiate that.
Right.
At the onset. If you are brand new, nobody really knows you, you're trying to get your name out, often you will make bad deals like that until you can be able to get
there, yeah.
to get where you want to be.
Well, there's that beautiful scene in Ray where he goes, I would like my my masters. And they go, sir, no one gets their master. No, they're my masters. I want them.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he did get them.
Yeah.
But you know, it's
Ray Charles. Come on now.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a really good line to follow here for our audience, which is some of our audience. I don't know if we have a whole lot of musicians and artists, but we do have people who are doing content creation. We do have people who are growing their audiences, and they may hit a point where their audience grows so large that they are now in a position where they're being approached by companies to do endorsement deals, or they're kind of influencers, or that may be what they're aspiring to do, or they may be artists who are using their social media or developing a business around what they do. So what is something a young artist, a young business owner, someone who aspires to be a social media influencer, what are some of the things they should think about now before they go, you know, if they're reaching a point where they think they might get one of these deals, what should they be thinking about before they sit down and talk with someone who offers them a deal or they sign anything?
So I think that one of the main things that they should be thinking about is what type of licensing rights they're willing to give away. Mm-hmm. Like that's the ultimate thing, because a lot of times people make multiple deals with multiple people for multiple reasons, and then often you'll end up giving all of your licenses away, and at the end you're like, wait, I don't have any license. Yeah. So you need, at the onset, you need to determine what licenses you're willing to give up, and which ones you absolutely want to hold and not allow anyone else to take.
So there's a little bit of homework here, depending on what business you're in.
It's a lot of bit of homework.
If you're musicians, you probably want to sit down and do a little research on what is the typical deal for a new musician getting signed to an independent label or even a major label, right? What's the typical deal? And I'm sure there are places you can go look for. I wouldn't know where to look, but you know, the internet is great, right?
Right.
So understand, just like any kind of business, understand the industry you're in. Understand how business is typically done in your industry, and then understand what that first deal for a new artist or that first endorsement deal, if you're a social media presence who is growing your audience. Understand what the industry typically does. That way you have an idea going in before they put a document in front of you to sign.
Absolutely, right? Because the last thing you want to do is go in uneducated. When you go in uneducated, then it's a lot easier for them to kind of manipulate you into what you have to look at it like this. You're going in and they're trying to get the best deal for them.
Absolutely.
And you're trying to get the best deal for you. They're not looking out for your best interest. They're looking out for the best interest of them.
Absolutely.
And so you have to always go in knowing that and understanding that the only person that is looking out for your best interest better be you. Mm-hmm. And so go in educated so that you already know and you can understand and you can speak the language, because often the language is used to show that they know a little bit more than what you do. And if you're naive to the language, then you just kind of take whatever it is that they say.
So it's important not just to understand the typical practices in your industry, but the language of your industry as well. And how that couples with the language of the law.
Exactly.
So
we could do a whole show on the difference between publishing rights and performance rights, because people do not understand. It's still foggy to me what publishing rights are, but that if the artist gets the publishing rights, they get a tremendous amount of more money than if they don't fight for that.
Exactly.
And publishing, as far as I know, is anytime that song is used in a commercial or any of those kind of interviews, it's not publishing like paper.
Exactly.
But it is put out there.
Exactly.
And you've got to fight for those publishing rights, because they can be huge amounts of money.
And that's the thing, being able to educate yourself to know the difference going in, so that you know what you need to be fighting for, and you know what rights you need to be trying to keep as your own and protect.
So Brian, besides publishing rights, which may or may not apply to some of our audience here, what are some other things that young artists or young creators, which is probably a better term for a lot of our audience, what are some of the things they should be thinking about before they sign a deal, or maybe even before they even start to try to pursue some of these deals?
Well, it's also the length of deal, because I heard some things about Fleetwood Mac specifically, that they signed a multi-album deal. Now it's CDs and now it's online. But, in those days, they said, okay, we'll do 5 albums for you. Well, they've got to feel that they can write 5 albums worth of material, because if the first one's really good and the other 4 are no good, they've fulfilled their contract, but they're going to be dropped by the record company. Right. And if they say, we just can't write any more songs, we've done 3 albums, then they're in violation of the contract. Right. So you have to look at the length of the contract and make sure you feel you have the right band members who are going to stick around, and the right sound and the right depth of writing. And the Beatles are very lucky. They had 3 writers at least, and Ringo wrote a few things. But to be someone like Tom Petty, and we lost him way too soon, Tom Petty is somebody, he was kind of the writer. He was, or you take a look at John Fogerty with Creedence Clearwater. He was the only one writing the songs, and that's a lot of pressure to keep coming up with hit album after hit album.
So I love that advice. If you're going to sign a multi-year deal, or if you're going to sign a multi-week deal, make sure you're willing to go the distance to live up to your part. You've heard me talk a lot about, Andrea, of I want to make sure I live up to my part of the deal. So make sure you're willing to go the distance and do all the things that you say you're going to do in that deal. And if they're asking you for more, to give more than you're willing to give, that's something to negotiate on.
Well, it's interesting. We can compare this a little bit to buying a car. I went in recently. I'm not going to say the dealership, because I don't want everybody watching to run to that dealership, try to get the deal I did. But I went in at the end of the month, and I said I'd like this type of Hyundai, and they said, well, we can do a better deal on this one. The manufacturer said, do not let us catch you with any 21 Tucsons. So they were in a position where with good credit, they saw that, okay, what does he need? And I said, look, if I'm going to accept a higher payment, I need this and this and this. You go back to your sales manager, see what you can do. I got the most amazing deal, because they knew I was a buyer. They knew I had good credit, and they wanted to get rid of another 2021 Tucson because the new ones were coming in. So now let's take it back to a musician. If you feel strong enough about yourself that you have a boatload of songs, they're good songs, you can sit back and say, well, look, I've got the songs, I've got the health, I've got the band. We need more concessions.
Yep. And you said something really great that I want to make sure people didn't miss. You were talking about, in that deal about the car, you knew what you wanted your payment to be.
Right.
You knew what you wanted out of the deal.
Right.
And you knew what you were willing to move on to get that piece of the deal. And a lot of young artists and creators, please think about what you want out of the deal. Yeah. Don't just sign a deal because someone puts one in front of you. Right. Before you even read the paper, understand what you want out of the deal, and make sure that's in there. And then if that's not in there, make sure you get it. And you may need to give more to get the important thing to you. They may be able to give more to get what's important to them if those things don't match. Right. There's a lot of room in negotiation.
I wanted to add something too, Jason. If you already have material that you've written, copyright it. File it with the copyright office. So that when you're going in and negotiating, yes, it's in a tangible form and you technically already have a copyright. Have it registered with the copyright office. Make that a part of your negotiation. Because they're going to have to pay you to go in and change those rights over to them. Where it won't be able to just be done by them just throwing a contract in front of you and saying, hey, we want the copyright to all of your songs.
So hear this. This is very important. You have a way to protect your rights. Creators, artists, musicians, you have a way to protect your rights and actually make it a little more difficult for them to get you to sign it over to them by copywriting your material, by talking to someone like Andrea, by going through the process early. You can protect your rights, and then you've got some room on that negotiation as well.
Absolutely.
So, besides music, and a quick question: when you copyright a song, what form is that in?
So you have to put it in a tangible form, so it has to be written out, right?
Okay.
And
so it has to be written
In
out,
writing,
written
yes.
out music and lyrics.
Yes. You
If
typically,
there are
you typically,
lyrics.
yeah, if there
Okay.
are lyrics, yes, you typically want it. But you can also just do just the words, just the music.
Can
So
you
you can-
can you submit a tape or a video?
Typically, it depends on what the Copyright Office want in their archives, because you have to be able to provide them with the archives. So if there's sheet music, they want a copy of the sheet music. If there's a performance of it, or if you have it on a recording, then they may also want that recording as well. So because they're going to put this on in their library. So this will be housed in the copyright in the library. So you want to make sure that you provide them whatever it is that they want. They will let you know what form that they want to have your actual.
So for someone who is doing content, they're doing funny sketches on YouTube, or they're doing I don't know, kind of the business stuff that we do, speeches, that kind of stuff that people are putting online like that. What kind of form do you recommend they do? Do you know? Is that uncharted territory?
Well, it all depends, because parody kind of is parody can be a little interesting to deal with. If your content is unique and it's original, I say you can file it. If it's in a tangible form, intangible form is as long as it's written down and you have it in a form, then you can be able to file it with the Copyright Office.
The important part I heard here is, one, there's a bunch of caveats to all this.
Yes.
That's important point one. Important point two is that the federal government is still very much working in a paper mentality. By paper, I mean text on a page mentality. It can probably be in electronic form,
Yes,
but,
it can.
but just sending in your video or just saying my video's up on YouTube is probably not enough.
Right. Yeah, and you do get that. You get that protection once you create it. And that the thing is that what people don't understand, in order to actually litigate it in court, you want the actual copyright registration.
Right.
That gives you way more power within the court system.
And that copyright registration is what gives you protection and gives you
Exactly.
leverage in negotiations, because
And it puts people on notice.
Right.
Remember the whole notice thing, right? You get someone else on notice that yes, it's registered with the Copyright Office.
we talked about musicians doing doing songs and that, but another opportunity, another potential piece of this, I'm just kind of thinking out loud, is people like me who have done something on YouTube and someone says, hey, we'd love for you to come to our event and give that speech in our event, but then somewhere I signed everything you talked about in our event, that goes up on our page,
right.
and that goes and we're going to go sell that access to that page after, and you can't ever use this again, right? So just think about that kind of stuff. You may want to, if you've got a speech you give over and over again, you may want to look into how to get that copyright registration for that particular speech.
If you write poetry,
If
you're a poet writer, you can do a collection of your poems, and you can be able to register those with the Copyright Office.
Yeah, and you can do a collection of songs as well, which I have done under one album title.
But
yes, there's something else that I think, and this is kind of for musicians, but perhaps something else, mainly for musicians, because there was a famous court case with George Harrison, where his song "My Sweet Lord" was too close to some other song, a Motown song. Well, when you copyright your song, you want to make sure you get the melody line in there as well.
Yes, because those
just
oh
a
my
lyric
goodness,
sheet,
and they break it down. When I tell you they break
Yeah.
it down so simple, they are listening to like every beat and counting all of that.
I think you have 6 beats or 6 measures that
Yes.
you can use.
Yeah,
And then
after that, it's an infringement. Exactly. So.
So that's something. And then to broaden it out, I think it's important to say that just like when a policeman calls you over, if you get contentious, they're going to feel like something's going on.
Right.
If you're sitting there with a record company and you're trying to get the best from there, or when I was in that car dealership, I never got contentious with them, because that is not going to help the situation.
Right.
You just say, this is what I need. You don't say, you guys are trying to rip me off, and all these accusations start flying, and then it's going to all break down.
Exactly.
And that's for anybody, not just a musician.
Yeah.
You got to keep the dialogue going. You know?
Be cool, be respectful, be professional.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think we're running out of time, but I'm trying to slide in my questions and I couldn't. I have 3 questions, but I'm gonna only ask one. We are talking about earlier that when you put your video, that's kind of like saying that it's yours as long as you have your logo and everything, not copyrighted. everything, goodness, I have so many questions. I don't know which one now. But, you know, when we put our videos, our video content on social media, you see all those things that if somebody taking that video, like somebody is reusing it, and you have that, like my business page. If they copy my video and then somebody is using it, there will be, because I sign up on those things, they will be, like they gonna be, community, they will be blocked.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So you block them, or
no, I don't block them.
so
Facebook,
they get blocked.
It
Facebook,
depends on the platform and what the community standards
then
are.
they'll- yes,
yeah.
yeah.
No, but it's not that. It is more kind of like copyright. Let's give you an example. On YouTube, when you put your videos in there and you become like what I'm doing now, it's I'm getting bigger. Now YouTube is sending me emails, said go and fill up this for your copyright.
Right.
So
right.
nobody can now I have already on Facebook like that.
So no one can actually take your content and just post it on their page,
So what's the
because
difference?
people do
Yeah.
that.
What's
So
the
yeah,
difference?
so and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, they all have their own sections of copyright and things like that. And so I highly recommend anyone that is using these platforms go and look up the guidelines and the rules that they have, because they have their own set already set up,
And they're always
Twitter,
changing.
and they're always changing. They're always changing, and you can report potential infringers directly to YouTube, and they will block that, and they'll block them immediately, and then research and find out whether or not they feel that there's an infringement or something like that. And
YouTube's
so
algorithms are pretty good, but
They
there
are,
is a reporting process, and it gets real weird, and we'll have to have you back.
yes,
Or
we
people
gotta
have
to
questions,
that.
but yeah, there's fair use and all kinds of other stuff we didn't get to.
exactly.
Bottom line, understand the community standards, understand the guidelines for using clips from other people's work, and bottom line, police your own intellectual property.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you for being here today. Andrea, please tell everyone where they can find you.
So you can find me at absimmonslaw.com. That is my website. That's the best way to get in contact with me. And from there, you can send me an email. You can reach out to me by phone, text message, whatever it is. So
Okay, great. And Brian,
Yeah.
how can everyone find you?
Just send me an email, bgardner2323@yahoo.com.
And when is your show on?
My show is usually on Fridays at 7
Okay.
p.m., but you can go to the social media shows site, go to branded programs, go down to We Have the Power and find it there.
Excellent. So find it there or tune in on Fridays at 7 p.m. Pacific
Yeah,
time?
and I have a Facebook page now for We Have the Power where
Excellent.
you can see all the shows as well.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
Maria, last words?
I think that's it. I think I like more of this talk. It's really interesting. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you so much, Brian,
you.
for
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
spending time. And I think we're out of here.
Yeah, we're out of here, so we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yes. And hope we're going to have more of you. Thank you. And please don't forget to subscribe, share, comment, like our page. If you like what you hear today, you can contact our guests, or you can reach out to us, admin@socialmediashows.com or info@socialmediashows.com, or you just simply go and message me on the Facebook. Thank you, and we'll see you guys.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Getting your business started, or if you're struggling with your business, trying to get those customers, trying to communicate what you do, you've always got to come back to the first one is your overall business strategy. And like we said, that starts with defining why you started your business, who you're doing it for, and how you help them. We help people with the nuts and bolts pieces of their business, turn your dream, your spark of an idea into reality.